What kind of drinks are you drinking tonight? What are you up to? Everybody ready for Christmas yet? Should I dare say that? Since Christmas is 17 days away. 17 days, that's it. That's it, not much. So what gift should I get? How to find the perfect gift for everyone on your list. Oh, not ready for Christmas, huh? Oh, let me, Dawn, guessing what you're drinking. Pepsi? Diet Pepsi? How close am I? Today, not only am I drinking this, I've got refills. Really important. Hey, look at that. That is an example of how to give wonderful gifts, excellent gifts that bring connection and inspire people and show people love, because that's what gift giving is all about. Even if you're doing it as a coworker in a larger corporation, if you're supposed to bring a Secret Santa gift or anything like that, you still want to try to make a connection and let the person know that they've been seen, right? That's very important. Marcia, you're funny. Okay. The whole idea for this, after we shut down the live stream last week, I was thinking, do I want to go for a third week about stress? No. That's stressful in itself. Nobody's going to want to talk about stress 3 weeks in a row. Even if you're living a stressful life, you got to get your mind on something else, especially in this season that we celebrate Christmas and we give each other gifts and go through, for most part, we have wonderful traditions that we like to celebrate, even if it's a time of struggling. This particular year, for whatever reason, we still have many things to be grateful for and all that. So I remembered that I happen to have this book. Now, I will put this book, the title and the author's name in the description, but I had bought this to learn how to give gifts within business to make connections. So as a coach, how do I want to give gifts? I don't want to give gifts just to try to manipulate somebody into having a relationship with me. I never want any of my relationships to be like that. I don't want anyone to feel manipulated or coerced in any way that they have to be in a relationship with me. So I wanted to make sure that I was getting the right feeling across as I would give gifts to clients for whatever reason. I did have one client one particular time that her very first grandchild, I think it was grandson, was born. So I found some kind of a kid's book, like one of those fundamental books. Maybe it was Dr. Seuss or something like that, but it had something to do with the relationship I had with the client and the relationship that she was hoping to have with her very first grandchild. Excuse me. So I sent that, and this was helpful back then in thinking about things like that, because I don't want it to come across as, trying to get something out of somebody, because that's not what gift giving is about. So, Marcia, you said that you are not ready for Christmas. My brother today asked me if I had my Christmas tree up yet. And I said, yes, I have both of them up. Just one of them that I put up a couple of weeks ago only has, from the bottom to about 2/3 of the way up, the lights. I still have to put the lights on the top third, and the box of those lights has been sitting next to it for about 2 weeks, I think. So I am partly ready. I have some ideas for gifts that I'm going to be getting for people or making for people, the ones that I'm super excited about. I'm hoping to make, even though it's getting close to the time. But my school semester is not done until Friday. So between now and then, it's going to be packed with getting some of the doctorate homework finished. I have 2 more tests and a homework assignment that is a very large statistics homework assignment that usually takes me at least 3 hours. I remember one time it took me 7 hours. So I have to be right on top of that. Until then. Then Friday is supposed to be cookie baking day, so that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that with my grandchildren and one of my daughters. That'll be good. Okay, so to give the perfect gift, I took some quick notes. I thought it was really funny when my children were growing up. I would always ask them to please write out a Christmas list. Honestly, it ended up basically being something for the scrapbooks because I wanted to know what's important to you now. What is it that you would wish for a gift for Christmas? You know, and it was a lot of fun. But Stephanie, my middle kid, she used to get really frustrated with trying to write out her list because she says, I don't know what I want. You usually look at the list and say, well, I didn't say this to their faces, but she got the idea that if I looked at their list of the things that they want, and I would basically have the idea, oh, pumpkin, that's not what you really want. So I would end up getting a gift that was much more meaningful and specific to her, at least, than what she could have thought of to ask for. So that meant a lot to me that she saw it that way. So I came up with a list from some of the techniques that I used through the years in trying to give gifts to people that are meaningful, let the person know how special they are, how much I appreciate them, a representation of the type and level of love that I have for that person, and also to either begin a connection or to solidify that connection, So yeah. All right. The first point that I wanted to make is that you have to know the person well. Relationship is key. That means that even if you have to, carry your phone around with you and start, well, I can't open it because I'm on the interwebs right now. But I have in my notes app a list of Christmas ideas. That usually gets started months before Christmas or anything. I start taking notes of things like, oh man, I wish I had this. Or this is the project that I'm going to be doing after I'm done with this project. So I'm listening for things that I can do to facilitate, to support that person in setting their goals and accomplishing their goals. So you have to listen and keep notes. Have you guys ever kept notes like that? I know I have a friend actually from college. I was so impressed with her. She's a project manager and has been for years within the IT field. And she actually told me that, well, the last time we talked, when it was months ago, I wrote in my notes. And I thought, wait, you take notes about relationships too? So we had a good laugh about that because I thought with my own failings, with ADHD or whatever the reasoning, a lot of times I cannot remember facts about things. So she put it right out there in front that, yes, I take notes from conversations so that I can remember and I can prove to you how important you are to me. So sometimes I do that year round, but especially for Christmas, I have that in the notes app where it's all started. Yeah. So do you take time to build those relationships? Because that is the only way. You can know somebody. I'm laughing because I remember something that my sister used to say. You have to know somebody now as well as possibly then, right? My sister is just about 8 years younger than I am. She was a wonderful gift to me from God. That's a whole nother story. The takeaway from that was my mom and dad were able to have a wonderful, beautiful, intelligent gift of a daughter when they were in their upper 40s, if you can believe that. And the second thing from that, I was no longer allowed to pray alone. So that was a funny family story. Anyhow, so my sister, let's see, she graduated right around 94 from high school. Right? I can't remember the exact year for sure, but she was in that particular sub generation, that little spread of ages that really got into the oh my goodness, why I want to say fluorescent, the super bright colors in the 80s, the late 80s. And so people thought, even 10 years later, that she loved wearing those colors. So she would still get presents later of these colors that were insane, like sunshine yellow and hazard orange, all those things. It was so funny. Do you guys have any stories like that you can share? I'd love to read about them in the chat. We can engage on that. But it's so important to know the person well. Pay attention, take notes, be like my friend who's a project manager and care enough about the relationship to take notes. Yeah, and remember that right now, the relationship that you have with that person needs to celebrate what's going on in that person's life now, not just 10 years ago. So that's the first thing. Relationship is key. Paying attention. All right. The second thing, I've already kind of alluded to it, but gifts are for showing love and either creating or developing connections. The very first Christmas I had a boyfriend. He's even, from what I understand through common connections, I know that he is a wonderful man now still. But back then, I believe I was 15, and Christmas was the day before I turned 16. So I didn't have a license, didn't anything. The way that I tried to find anything to get him as a present, because I knew he was coming over, we were going to be sharing, exchanging gifts as usual. My mom took me to the mall, and we went from one end of the mall all the way down through as many stores as we possibly could, all the way back. And you know what I got him? Was a glass Christmas tree that was probably about that big, and it was filled with candy. That was the best I could come up with, because in my awkward 15-year-old mind, I could not think of any way to connect or to get him a gift that shows the connection that we have and how much he matters to me. But he nailed it in the gift that he gave me. It was a gift that I kept for many years. And honestly, I'm not sure what happened to it. But he got me this little panda bear. It was about that big. And he took the bow off of it because he knows that I'm not this super girly frou-frou kind of a person. And he got some red felt. Because he always wore ties to school, and that's a whole other story. We went to a Christian high school that was college prep and had pretty rigid uniform rules that we had to abide by. He did crazy things with his tie. It was hilarious. But to show the connection, to show the relationship that was special between the two of us, that black and white panda didn't have the bow, but he had used the red felt to cut a tie and to tie it around the bear with extra felt. He cut out a heart, and on one side he put his name, and on the other side he put my name. So that ended up in my locker the minute we got back to school, and it didn't leave until it was time for summer. And I took it back home, and it sat right next to my bed all the time. Like I said, I kept that for many years. I did end up getting rid of the heart that was the telltale, because I didn't marry this man. I married somebody else. So that felt heart with his name on one side and my name on the other. I did get rid of that, but I had that panda for many, many years. Okay, well, that was the second thing. The first thing was to know the person well. and relationship is key. Then the second thing, gifts are for showing love and creating or developing the connection. The third thing, if you are not very deep into a relationship with this person yet, or you're kind of lost, you go to the 5 love languages and you figure out what is it that makes this person feel loved. So I don't know if you guys have done studies on the 5 love languages, but just in case I got stuck, I went ahead and pulled them up. Gary Chapman actually wrote a book that's called The 5 Love Languages, and he had first published it in 1992. There are so many new iterations that have, How to Love Your Teenager, 5 Love Languages of Teens, there's so many. But I think this is excellent. He offers a test, one of those cute tests that you can take to ascertain which one or two of the love languages matters to yourself. And of course, it doesn't matter that much that you know your own love language, but that you know the loved one's love language. So the 5 love languages are words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, acts of service, and receiving gifts. My ex-husband loved receiving gifts. Acts of service, kind of. Physical touch, as in most marriages, that was important. Words of affirmation were important. For me, quality time is of utmost importance, and it was not for him. So that was a little bit of a stressor in our relationship. But once we figured that out, we were able to attest or, work on that and fix that situation to make sure that I was loving him in the language that he is able to receive, and likewise. So as a thought, words of affirmations, let's start at the very first one, and we can talk about it and then maybe come up with some ideas about if a person's love language is words of affirmation, what kind of a gift do we get them? It's about, and I'm going to read from the website there. It's about expressing affection through spoken words, praise, or appreciation. When this is someone's primary love language, they enjoy kind words and encouragement, uplifting quotes, love notes, and cute text messages. I should have brought in the mug that my son-in-law had gotten me. Obviously, I have my Coach Amy mug, as I always do during live streams. But let's see if I can quote it. I love it. I love it, and it made me feel so loved. He had it printed special and ordered so that he would be able to give it to me. I think it was for Christmas. I'm not sure. But it says, "If you weren't my mother-in-law, I would punch her in the face and come look for you." And at the bottom, it says, love from your favorite, because I always tell him that he's my favorite kid. But yeah, so something like that reinforces the relationship that I have with my son-in-law. Even though words of affirmation are not necessarily something that I would consider one of my top 1 or 2 love languages, that represents the connection that I have with him. I know sometimes when people need words of affirmation, let's remember what I was reading earlier, kind words and encouragement. If you give someone just a little trophy that can sit on their desk that says, best whatever ever, something like that, something that constantly reminds them through words, hey, I matter, or you matter to me, I care about you. That's part of the words of affirmation. Now, quality time is what I was talking about mine. This is very important to me. So someone with this love language values your full presence when you are together. They feel most loved if you give them your undivided attention and spend time together in meaningful and interactive ways. This means putting down the cell phone, turning off the computer, making eye contact, thoughtfully interacting, and actively listening. I guess this is probably why I enjoy coaching so much. I want to set things aside. I want to, square my shoulders to someone and listen intently. I want to listen to what's important to them. And that I said that twice, but you want to hear the words that are coming out of their mouth. And then you also want to hear the underlying tone that you read through their body language, through the type of voice that they're using at that time, all of those. I want to actively listen all the way through to everything that they're saying and make sure that they understand how much I care. Being able to spend undivided time together, doing some kind of an activity that keeps the interaction going. That is exactly why I love coaching. Yeah, helping a person from where they are. Yeah. By the way, maybe I should just take a second for a quick commercial. If you know of anyone or you are ready for any kind of life coaching support or accountability or resources, anything like that, please feel free to go to my website, which is coachamypratt.com. You can look under the tab that says the 6 dimensions of health and wellness, and that gives a pretty general idea. Well, there's some specifics in there too about the curriculum style methodology that I use for coaching. Of course, you're able to dictate what it is that you would like to have coaching for. But if you come just as a general, help me, I'm drowning in life kind of a thing, we would follow a lot of what that methodology is. So the 6 dimensions of health and wellness is one of the tabs on the coachamypratt.com website. So you can contact me through there to ask questions or to have a quick conversation over the phone or a video chat to see if we would be a good connection for coaching sessions. So, okay, done with the commercial. Let's go back to the third love language of the 5, physical touch. Now, this doesn't have to be where everybody's mind goes first. Let's listen. A person with physical touch as their primary love language feels love through physical affection. Aside from sex, they feel loved when their partner holds their hand, touches their arm, or gives them a massage at the end of the day, for example. This person's idea of a wonderful date night might be cuddling on the couch while watching a movie, slow dancing with a lot of physical contact, or taking a long walk together while holding hands. They feel most loved when physically interacting with their partner. Obviously, they're coming from the marriage standpoint, but one of my daughters actually really appreciates physical touch. That can be, just reaching out and putting my hand on her shoulder or something while we're talking or whatever. So depending on the intimacy that you've already established with a person whose primary love language is physical touch, a gift for them could be anywhere from, if you're married, specific things that are in, that kind of intimacy, or for a person that you don't know very well, perhaps you would want to get them a massage and pay for a gift certificate to a massage place or something like that, or maybe even a pedicure. Go get pedicures together. Something about physical touch. That would be nice. Okay. So then the next one is acts of service. Acts of service are nice things you do for your partner that make them feel loved and appreciated, such as helping with the dishes, running errands, vacuuming, or putting gas in the car. If your partner's main love language is acts of service, they'll notice, excuse me, I'm sorry. They'll notice and appreciate little things you do for them. They tend to perform acts of service and kindness for others too. Now, I want to make a specific notice on this. Helping with the dishes. For acts of service, as opposed to quality time, acts of service is more you do it for them. Um, so if they come home from a long day at work or whatever, and the dishes are done, a person whose love language is acts of service, they are so appreciative. They just feel very, very loved that way. For me, with quality time, if I am overwhelmed by the amount of work that I have to do, and there is a way for someone to, in a meaningful way, jump in and help support me through the tasks that I must complete and connect in that way, that's quality time, at least the way that I see it. And I believe that that goes according to the definitions there too. So acts of service is different than quality time. So I would say helping by doing the dishes or running errands for them or doing the vacuuming, putting gas in the car. There was a woman that I worked with who was from Germany. She was born and raised in Germany. She somehow had met her husband and they moved to the United States. Well, she hated filling her car with gas. She said she just felt so stupid for whatever reason. She would just stand there and she'd be like, I hate doing this. So one of the best ways for him to show how much he loved his beautiful wife was to make sure once a week or however often to take her car to the gas station, get it all the way filled up, check all the fluid levels, and take it through the car wash so that she had nothing to think about when it comes to her car. And every time she got in her car, I remember her talking about how loved it made her feel, that she didn't have to do anything but get in and use the car. So that's acts of service. Okay, now this last one that we're going to talk about is receiving gifts. This isn't as simple as, getting a gift like, giving that gift certificate for a pedicure or something like that. This is different. There's nuance to this one. All right, let's read it. For someone who resonates with this love language, gifts symbolize love, care, and affection. They treasure not only the gift itself, but also the time and effort the gift giver put into selecting it. When you take the time to pick out a gift specifically for them, it tells them that you are thoughtful and really know and care about them and their preferences. People with this love language can often remember every little gift they have received from their loved ones because it makes such an impact on them. This represents my mom. Absolutely. She's no longer with us, but my mom, she left behind 2 glass front curios that were just packed with little tchotchkes from people, little things that her kids made from school and brought home. And granted, her kids are, I don't know, how old are we? I'm the 5th of 6 and I'm in my mid 50s. So that she kept them for that long. And they were like touchstones. Every time she would clean her curio, she would say, this is that, glass blown piano that my son David got me. And she would go on to tell the story that anytime they moved, which wasn't very often, but anytime they moved, that was the very last thing that would leave the house. And she would carry it carefully in the car to the next place so that nothing would happen to it. For her, gifts meant everything. So when my children were young, like preschool age, I took them on a weekly basis to a pottery shop where they could pick out their own already, the pieces of ceramics that were already shaped in whatever form that they wanted. And then they could sit and paint for the hour, whatever colors they wanted. And we would leave it there at the store for her to put into the kiln. And then by the time we came back the next week, it would be ready. Well, one week, my oldest, Tom, he chose an angel that would sit at the top of a door frame like that. And he wanted to specifically give that to my mom, who actually liked angel figurines throughout the house. He took great time, with his little 5 or 6-year-old pudgy fingers. He was trying so hard to make sure that the eyes were blue, just like Grandma Betty, and color her hair, color the angel's hair gold, and beautiful color. He put sparkles on the wings, and he really worked very hard on that. So when he gave it to my mom, she was just thrilled with it. She did decide to keep it as one of the Christmas decorations, but that was one of the handful of Christmas decorations that meant the most to her. One year, unfortunately, it got knocked down from the corner, and after she got over the trauma of it being broken, she fixed it and made sure that from then on, it was going to be affixed with glue tabs to the wall instead of just setting it there, because she just couldn't handle having it broken yet again. So that, my mom, like I said, her love language is representative of receiving gifts, that particular one. So I don't know if you guys have thought of the people that you still need to buy gifts for this holiday season. Perhaps you celebrate Christmas. Perhaps you celebrate other things. My birthday is the day after Christmas. I think I said that earlier when I was talking about my high school sweetheart. So birthdays, even around this time of year. And by the way, this is the time for you to be thinking about those poor people who had birthdays in January, because by the time we're done with all of the holidays, my dad's birthday was January 20th. And I used to think, oh, shoot, Dad's birthday. Now's the time to start thinking and start listening, start taking notes about things that you hear that would be meaningful, not necessarily expensive, but meaningful for that person, for that particular event. All right. So we'll go back to the original list about giving the perfect gift. And the first note was make sure you know the person well. Relationship is key. The second one, gifts are for showing love and creating or developing a connection. And we went into the 5 love languages, talking about the different ways that you could give a gift to somebody who feels or receives love in those particular ways. All right, now the next point is to remember what makes the person unique so you can celebrate it. If the person, I don't know, just pulling an example out of there from nowhere. Do you guys remember when the Coke cans had names on them? Almost always they were the most obscure names that were crazy spellings or something. My name, as simple as Amy, A-M-Y. I never once found a Coke can that had A-M-Y on it. Not once. Never. So if that were the situation and you had it in your power to show somebody that you cared, not necessarily for Christmas or whatever, but if you saw a Coke can with their name on it, and that they had noticed that they'd never seen one with their name on it, that means something. Now that, of course, is one of the most superficial levels of what I'm trying to discuss as possible. But what makes that person unique? Possibly, okay, let's take an example from my social psychology doctorate that I'm working on. If a person is neurodiverse, meaning that their brain is structured in a way that they think differently or they behave differently or all of the above. Let's take an obvious example. If a person has autistic tendencies and they are constantly trying to fit in to society where almost everyone is neurotypical, as the term is, there are many positives to people having autism. I won't bother with that. That can be a different live stream that we could do sometime. If anyone is interested in learning more about neurodivergence, what it's like to have ADHD or autism or even dyslexia and other things that make consider a person neurodivergent, we can talk about that another time. But there are positives. If you know a person well enough and you know what their carrot or their trigger is, either one or both, then you're going to be able to get a gift that really packs a punch and helps the person understand. So if a person has difficulty in being integrated into a social circle in any way that both of you share, for example, get a gift that represents that person's unique contributions. So a person who is autistic possibly would be able to see how a group functions, and be able to organize for a party because they can see like a bullet list type style of how to organize a party and to make sure that every T is crossed and every I is dotted. So perhaps going back to the previous example of that little desktop trophy, you could have some kind of a plaque put on there saying, world's best party planner, with a note on the gift that says, you did a fabulous job. I so appreciate this about you. The world is a better place because of you being so good at such and such. So that's some examples about that. What it is that makes that person unique, and you make sure that you celebrate it. Okay. So what is the next thing? What makes your relationship unique? I already shared about my high school sweetheart giving me the little panda bear. That was an amazing, amazing gift that represented the connection between us. So that was very nice. I already talked about that. So if you have a person that you need to get a gift for, that you have to just consider the relationship and something that's special about it, and pull something from an activity that you had before. Make sure to solidify the relationship in that way. Okay, so the last one. Keep in mind the time frame. Now, I did already allude to this a little bit, but let's go back into it. Not just remembering that a person does grow past fluorescent colors like my sister did, but also what is the person that you're getting the gift for currently going through? What are their current goals that they're working toward? We could come up with a bunch of examples. If you guys are able to put some in the chat, that would be lovely. You can help me out here. But what some goals are, there's a funny scene that I remember that is a good example of this. I love The Big Bang Theory. Love it. I love it so much that I have bought all 12 seasons in DVDs, and then I lent those out and bought the on the Apple TV. I don't know why I can't think. Why I can't think is because I'm going through this doctorate, and anyway. But yeah, so I bought it through Apple that time. So I've bought them twice. Anyway, one of the scenes, Howard Wolowitz had this really strange and creepy relationship with his mom that was just like, ew. But when he was married already, he would go over to his mom's house and rub estrogen cream on her because that's what she needed for whatever medical situation, blah, blah, blah. And it caused him to, it was the funniest thing. He was acting a lot like a whiny woman who is constantly thinking that she's fat and ugly. So all the way through the entire episode, he's talking about, I thought you loved me, when his wife Bernadette had made some decadent dessert for them to share. I think it was brownies or something like that. He says, I thought we were in this relationship together. So you get the idea. If somebody is trying to diet, and that is not the time to make their favorite cake and bring it to them and try to get them to eat it with you in celebration of a relationship. No. So if a person is wanting to set the goal of maybe picking back up playing the piano, perhaps you'd be able to buy a tote bag that this person could put their music books in when they go to their lesson, something like that. Or maybe you could even give them a gift certificate for a music store where they could go and buy music that they could play as they're getting better and better. So, but you get the idea. What is the person currently going through, and what are their current goals? When someone, okay, I have lost both my parents over the last few years, and both of them it was not, I mean, death is never a good, fun experience, but they had lived such full lives with little regret. And they were 89 and 93 when they passed away. So it was okay. But that's still a very stressful thing to go through. And the way that people were able to give gifts for particular events that happened during those times, they needed to remember the stress and the pressure of trying to process grief that I was going through and the people around me were going through, the other family members and such. Sometimes bringing somebody a meal is a wonderful thing. Sometimes it's a difficult thing. Sometimes getting somebody flowers is a good thing. Sometimes it's a difficult thing. Consider what it is they're going through. And a lot of people are very good at masking. They will have this professional or church lady persona on where they're not going to share anything. They're going to constantly be, "Oh, I'm doing great. How are you?" And take the attention off of them to talk about you instead. But this is where the whole relationship is key comes in. Knowing and watching, actively listening is the way that you can find ways to give gifts that mean something, that show the person that they are unique and special and loved, and to firm the connection that you have with them and further the relationship. Okay, so we'll go back to the original idea of this giftology book and read through his chapter notes. I'll just read a couple of notes here and there and see if any of them help you in this gift-giving season come up with ideas. Giving is the master key to success in all applications of human life. So that means giving of yourselves. That matches every one of the 5 love languages in one way or another. Oh, thank you, Linda. I appreciate that. I hope it is helpful, because gift giving, especially when you're grandma, for all those different people and they live so far away, it's hard to connect, but hopefully something is helping you. So yes. All right. Part 1 is the power of giving. The gift is a symbol of the relationship, like we were already talking about. A gift opens the way and ushers the giver into the presence of the great. Now, remember, this book is written from a business person's perspective. So what this is saying, I'll read it again. A gift opens the way and ushers the giver into the presence of the great. It's making a connection. It's bringing something to the table that is a positive, that is meeting a need. Yeah. Let's see. What else does he have to say? I know we're getting close to the end of our hour together. Oh, and this is in the middle of a several page long story, so I'm not going to read the whole story, but you'll get the idea if I just read a little bit of it. The author writes, a light bulb went off in my head, giving me the craziest idea. And I mean crazy. So he was listening actively. All right. Casually, I mentioned I had season tickets to the Cleveland Cavaliers and invited him to opening night. But all the while, I knew the dinner and a game invitation was probably one he heard all the time. A nice enough offer, but not exactly something that would make me stand out or make the connection. Remember, written by businessman for other business people, but we're going to take it as people with influence to inspire and to connect with others. Okay. I had to make an impression with this guy. That's business speak for I need to make a connection. Okay. Now knowing that Brooks Brothers was his favorite store, I nonchalantly mentioned that I wanted to send him a dress shirt and asked what size he wore. He looked at me like I was absolutely out of my mind. Why is this random stranger asking me about my shirt size? But he took it in stride and answered the question. A few months later, I received this text, or a text. He was having a hellish day of traveling. His flight to Cleveland had been delayed, and he wasn't sure he'd even make his connection. I could tell he was absolutely exhausted and probably feeling obligated to go to dinner and the basketball game, when all he really wanted was to pass out in his hotel room. Playing it cool, I told him not to worry. If we miss the game, we miss the game. In the meantime, I jumped into my car and raced to find the nearest Brooks Brothers. En route, I called my business partner to tell him what I had planned, an idea he thought was absolutely insane. Honestly, I was beginning to think he was right. The clock was ticking. Cameron was due to land shortly, and there I was, tearing up to Brooks Brothers to go on a shopping spree for a guy I'd only met once. My heart was pounding in my chest, but I trusted my gut. I burst through the door and rushed in. Here are his sizes, I said. I want one of everything in your new fall collection. All your jackets, sweaters, shirts, pants, everything. The junior sales associate looked at me like I was nuts and said, come on, you're joking, right? No, I replied. I want one of everything. That turned out to be $7,000 worth of clothing that I charged on my Amex, causing me to break out in a cold sweat. That was a lot of money. Obviously, I'm not suggesting that we do this. This is just a humorous, insightful example in this story. After loading everything into my car, I headed straight to the Ritz where Cameron was staying. Once there, I explained to the general manager that one of the top business coaches in the world was staying at his hotel, and I asked if he wanted to create an experience that would absolutely wow him. Of course, the general manager agreed. For the next hour, we merchandised Cameron's room to mimic a Brooks Brothers store, so he could pick out whatever he wanted from my $7,000 purchase to keep as a gift. 2 hours later than expected, he finally arrived, drained, worn out, exasperated. I told him to take his time getting ready while I waited in the lobby. I was nervously nursing a glass of bourbon when he finally reappeared. His face was glowing. Cameron was absolutely blown away by what I had done. Whatever you want to talk about for as long as you want to talk about, I am all ears. And he goes on from there. What a boost in that man's step that must have been. He was so exhausted, but he saw that this gentleman, John Rulin, had taken the time to write down notes about him. So that in a time such as this, he would be able to show, hey, I care. I'm not trying to manipulate you. I care. Now, in this business relationship, the gentleman reciprocated by saying, okay, as a business coach, I'm all ears. But do you know that he wasn't doing that in the same drained, exhausted feeling that he had experienced by the time he finally got there and landed? This put such a boost in his step that he had the energy to interact in the way that was mutually beneficial. That is what we want to do when we're trying to give gifts. It may be for a particular event, gift-giving season, such as Christmas or Hanukkah, if you are one of my Messianic Jew friends, or maybe for a birthday. maybe somebody is going through a difficult time and you want to do something to lighten their step or lessen the burden that they carry. I remember when, years ago, before everything went digital, before there were cell phones, or even before the what were those called? The data assistants. Well, I forget. They even came with a stylist and everything like that. But even before then, when you would buy an address book, for every single entry, a lot of them would say like the shoe size that they wear. Thank you, PDAs. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It would ask what shoe size they wore, when their anniversary is, what's their birth date. You could put the year or not, whatever. So you would take notes inside the address books like that. Back when, I don't know, I could get very nostalgic and say back when connections were real. But no, I remember that being a feature of a lot of address books that we would have. Now it's true when you open up your, we'll call it address books in a phone, you do have a space to take notes. You also, within the contact information, there's usually a note spot where you can put some notes in there. And I do have quite a few notes on some people that I don't interact with all that much. But then we could also be like my project manager friend from Ohio State. Her name is also Stephanie, just like my daughter. We could take notes on the relationships so that we can remember specifics about a person when we talk to them the next time. At first, they may feel as though it's not genuine, but everyone understands just how full everyone's lives and minds already are. So if you take the time to make notes, even if the person knows that you remembered because you took notes, they're still going to feel special because you took the notes and you specifically even pulled them back up and you remembered that way. So hopefully this information was helpful to you. There are so many content creators on YouTube. I just did a quick search. I think it was this morning, first thing, just to see what was out there. And, for gift giving ideas and such, there are, I think I came across a half a dozen just like that of people who had specific gifts that were inspiring, whatever. But it didn't go to the level of like the psychology of it. What is special about your relationship? What is special about the person? What is that person's love language? By the way, I should specifically articulate that however that person expresses love is probably how they receive love. That's probably their own love language. If you needed to hear that, make sure you remember that when you're thinking about the person that you don't know how to get a gift for. So, Linda, okay, so you used to keep notes and you let it go. Yeah. How it's easy to do that. But yeah, so hopefully this has been a helpful conversation that you got some helpful information from. And please forgive me for technical difficulties this particular time. I will learn, I promise. I want to say Merry Christmas to you all. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. And I hope that you have a wonderfully blessed night and a good sleep. Thank you so much for joining. And remember, you can go to coachamypratt.com if you'd like to contact me for coaching services or for any seminars that you would like to have within your business or any kind of a group setting, whether it's in a church or whatever. There's lots of different curriculum and seminar topics that are listed in the website that you can see there. So thank you so much. God bless.